Tyler Jackson of PlaySheetSports.com, and I am at Wyoming East High School, hosted by Kent McBride, head coach of the Wyoming East Warriors. Kent, thank you for having me down here today. And I want to start off with what's it like to come in November instead of January, as
Yeah,
opposed to last year? A little rocky, but
it's
the way it ended was pretty nice.
nice to have a preseason. Nice to have a little bit of acclimation time with the guys and what we're good at, what we not might not be very good at. So it's been a blessing to be able to have. I think today was our ninth practice to be able to get 9 practices in and have a little bit of growing pains. It's been nice.
Yeah. So, I mean, just to recap, last year you took over in January
Mm-hmm.
after there was a coaching change midseason. Really, I think you ended up being their third head coach essentially throughout the year. But things stabilized quickly. You got a big win early against West Side and then Logan. It took off from there. You ended up finishing your season in the state semifinals, which is further than the program has gotten, I think, in about 7 or 8 years. So this year, I think you come in with a lot of expectations, a lot of talk, and we'll get to that later. But I mean, what you guys did last year was primarily with a very young group. I think you started 3 underclassmen in Talon and Brock and Connor, and you had some really good players along with them, such as Zach Hunt
Yeah.
and Braxton Morgan, but you bring back the core and you also add another piece in Keegan Davidson. But I want to start off with just talk about the growth that you've seen from these young kids from year one to year two.
You know, they are young, but they're very experienced. So last year, all those guys played a lot of minutes, played a lot of games. So if you look at our roster and you look at the class beside, you think, oh, they're a young team, but we feel very comfortable with who we have, and we don't really worry about their age because they have so much game action under their belt. So they've been through the wars, they've been through the trials, and been through the ups and downs of game situations. So we're very comfortable with where we are. We like that they're youthful. Some days you have to deal with that on a couple different levels, but in terms of where they are from their experience, we feel very very comfortable with where our team is.
Gotcha. And I mentioned it, but you also have a couple of transfers. They I don't know what you guys are putting in the NIL
Yeah.
pot these days, but but they are they're Wyoming East legacy kids.
Right.
Brady's dad played on the state championship team with you, I
Mm-hmm.
believe. Keegan's dad, his sister, a legend here at this
Right.
school. His dad coaches the girls program, so it's not like you went into the portal. These are kids that they're Wyoming County
Right.
blood kids. I mean, just talk about what you've seen from them and how it kind of bolsters your roster because Brady brings in experience from a state championship program, but Shady Spring and Keegan brings in, he was in the state semifinal in
Right.
Class A last year and a first team All Stater in Class A too.
So that's what you look at, and with our experience, all of our guys played in the state semifinals last year. You had Keegan played in the state semifinals last year, and Brady as a sophomore played in that the Shady Fairmont game that was when it was Dobbs and Maxwell, and that really enjoyable game to watch. Brady was part of that and was in the game. So um, those guys come in with a lot of experience, and they come in from programs that won, so they know what winning looks like. That's the big thing that you look at with all these guys. They know what winning looks like, and they know what losing. They don't really know a lot about what losing looks like. So it allows you to when you practice, they expect a certain level of practice of themselves and their teammates. So when these guys came in, and you put them out on the court, it works because they don't know what the off switch is. So as a coach, you don't have to coach effort with those guys. You don't have to coach focus a whole lot because they came, Shady or Brady come from Shady. We know how successful that program is and what Ronnie's done there, and Keegan with Greater Beckley going to the semifinals. They come in with a certain level of expectation how things want to be done, and so they fit right in because they're just about winning, just like the rest of them. They're just about winning.
You have probably about with a group of talent 5 kids that would be number ones on
Yeah.
any other team. Uh, and in basketball, that can be tricky. It's not like baseball where it's like, okay, like I insert 9 kids. Like you're not, it's a lot different. There's only one ball to share around. You coach at the college level, and a lot of those guys you're bringing in, they were the number one or two on
Yeah.
their high school teams. Is there any sort of correlation in the experience to be able to cross over and like to handling that. I don't want to say personalities, but they're used to a certain level of success. Not just from a team standpoint, but also from a personal standpoint.
It is something we address. It's something we don't shy away from that conversation. But you're right. Going back to when you coached in college, generally everybody you recruited was the best player on the high school team. Then when you come in and you have to fit roles and how we want to play, it can be a challenge. And there are going to be times that in December, January, hopefully not in February, that we're working through those moments because they are going to rear their head at some point. You only find out about that in really hard moments, and I think from a schedule standpoint, we're trying to put ourselves in those hard moments. So we're okay with what's going to come from it. I think the guys have shown no selfishness, no questioning what we're trying to do, but we're still trying to fit the puzzle pieces. And what we're trying to tell the guys is everybody has a strength. Everybody's good at something. Do what you're good at a lot. Don't do what you're bad at. And the sign of an immature basketball player is when they try to do. If a coach says you're not a great 3-point shooter, and they do the whole, well, let me show you. Well, then you're fighting. We don't have that. So just do what you're good at over and over and over. And they're doing a pretty good job of that. So far, every day we've made progress on that.
Gotcha. Another thing is, in going into that state tournament last year, with pedigree, a lot of people were familiar. It's like, hey, Kent has an MEC championship, has been a very successful college head coach in the program. Winning that Logan game and the atmosphere that kind of puts you on a lot of people's radar. A lot of people understood you had a really good young group, but when you get on that stage, especially with that atmosphere and the amount of people that were in that building that night, it's kind of like, oh wow. And then you get to a semifinal and it's competitive. I think it was like a 1 point game throughout most of the first half. It was pretty close. So now you come into this year and it's most people I'd say probably have you penciled into a state championship game. But it doesn't work like that.
Oh no, it does not.
Even getting through the region is difficult because you have so many talented teams here. How do you kind of rein it in? Because obviously, I mean, I don't think you're going to shy away from it. The pedigree of this program, all these, they don't come away with, you don't come into the season. The expectation is, okay, we're going to compete for, we hope we're going to get there. That's what you want at the end. So how do you kind of balance that? Because I feel like that's such a tough balancing act, especially with the hype that this team's getting coming in.
You can't shy away from it. You can't shy away from the expectations. You can't shy away from the outside noise and people asking you, all the things about we're making our reservations in Charleston, things of that nature. But what we've done and what we try to harp on it is the reality of it is you had 2 guys transfer in, you return a really experienced, talented team, but none of us got what we wanted last year. We can have the reason Wyoming East didn't reach there, the reason Greater Beckley, but none of us got what we wanted. And ultimately that's why people are choosing to play, is we're trying to play on that last Saturday. So they've done a really good job of that. And I think Coach Chapman and myself are sticking to that message of, you can't harp on these guys can't rely on, well, this is what I accomplished last year. Well, yeah, that's what you accomplished, but we didn't accomplish what we wanted. We made great strides. We had some great experiences, but we didn't get there. And so there was a time in my coaching career when the year before we won the Mountain East Conference, we did this. We were right, oddly enough, we were right on the cusp of making the NCAA tournament and lost to a Sandcombe. Danny Sandcombe beat us. We were a bubble team. So, and the next year they came back very, very motivated, and we got over the hump, made the NCAA tournament. So I have experience looking at this where you're just close enough to taste it, but you don't get it, and keeping them focused on that. So the first day we had a meeting, we talked about the ultimate goal. We're not shying away from the ultimate goal, and we let them know that every decision the coaches make is with that goal in mind. And whether it lines up with how they view it or not, we're making that decision, and the guys are okay with that.
Gotcha. One thing that stands out too is you guys have the top heavy talent, but as well as I do, you have to have you're going to have to go 7 deep, sometimes 8 deep, depending on foul trouble or what's going on in some of those tough games. Talk to me about the depth of this team. We hit on the top level, but you're going to have those 2 to 3 guys. They're going to have to linchpin everything together, give you some minutes here and there.
Yeah, and what we are very fortunate to do is I think today was the first day in practice that we've put what we would deem the top versus the second group. We're able to go with about 11 guys in practice, split them evenly. Like Keegan and Talon are going against each other every day, and they don't get. I don't know many guys that get that type of competition. You're going to end up having about 60 practices, 60 times a year. So we're able to do that, and what it does is it lets, like I said, Keegan and Talon go against each other. It makes Brock Johnson go against Braxton Morgan, but it develops the other guys and gets them much more game like experiences through practice. We feel very comfortable, and we can go about 9 deep. Um, uh, we're good with it, and me and Coach Chapman talked about early in the year. We're going to put those guys in certain situations that people in the crowd might say, "Why are you doing it?" Well, like you said, the ultimate goal is the ultimate goal. That's the end game. The end game is not to be undefeated in December. The end game is to be playing your best basketball in February with a loaded gun, and let's see what happens. So we feel like if we get to that point, we'll take on anybody, we'll play anybody, we're ready to go. But we know that's the end game, and we're going to do our best to develop James Wood, Grayson Ashley. Those guys played a lot of basketball. Ryder Chapman, a freshman's a really good player. Micah McCoy, those guys are playing really, really well. So what they do a good job of, those guys do a great job. They look at the talent we have and they fit in with that talent. They know what they're out there, what their strengths are, and they stick to them. And that's where, when you put guys in like that, you feel very comfortable because they know what makes them good.
You think they'll have to get the fire marshal out for that season opener at Tug Valley? I mean, that's prime
Yeah.
Coalfields basketball, two-time state champions. You guys coming in with a lot of the hype. I feel like that's just a great way to kind of kick off a season in a schedule that's bound to be
Yeah,
extremely difficult.
it's going to be really fun. It'll be a long time. Some of these guys have been, you look at, for instance, Keegan. Keegan came back and he talked about wanting to be in these type of atmospheres, and I guess we're challenging ourselves early. Like you said, going on the road to the two-time defending champions in Naugatuck. We all know what Tug Valley is a lot like here. They eat, sleep, and breathe basketball. It'll be a rowdy place. We look forward to it. We'll be ready to go, and so I guess we made sure with our schedule that we tried to test ourselves as much as we could. So we'll go see.
I mean, you're aware of this because you grew up and you played it in as well. But sometimes even getting through this region
Yeah.
is almost as difficult as winning some state tournament games. And I don't think it's any different this year. You have James Monroe, which is a team that they beat everybody I think in the region last year.
Mm-hmm.
You have Independence dropping down; they have some good young talented players. I mean, West Side, they lost a lot of kids, but from what I understand, they're still pretty decent. And
Yes, they
there's
are.
always a rivalry aspect of this. So I mean, there's just so many good teams in the region. Talk about trying to navigate that, and understanding that it's really not guaranteed.
You try to schedule. At least we try to schedule a break every now and again. Like, let's get some games where you can play some depth. But in this region, it's really, really difficult. You didn't even mention Bluefield, who they pulled the upset last year, and they returned basically everyone off of their team, and they didn't play without Parrish. They were injured and got one game away from state tournaments on a Bluefield air quote down year. James Monroe returns essentially a lot of their big pieces, and Kelly does a great job. He said Independence dropping down. West Side, we played in this summer. Yeah, they lost some players, but daggone it, they are deep, and they play. The thing that they will always do is West Side's always going to give you they're going to, whatever they have in the tank, they're going to give it to you. So we don't take for granted to get there. Like, I haven't made my hotel reservations. My wife hasn't made her hotel reservations. And we know that not only did we test ourselves outside the region, but our region's going to take a lot of attention. So it's we have to prepare ourselves every day to be able to go on the road, because you go into James Monroe, you go to West Side, you go to Bluefield. Those are really, really tough places to play, and we got to be ready to do that.
We've talked about a lot of the strengths of this team. What are some of the weaknesses that you feel like you see right now that you really want to address and work on as the season goes?
Man, that's a good question. Right now, I don't think our offense is not clicking. which again, you're 9 practices in, and if we had to do the totality of what we practice, we spend 70% of our time on offense, and probably 30% of our time flip that, 70% on defense, 30% on offense. We're still trying to find how to use the pieces, I think, offensively. So what our job is early in the years, we'll stay really, really simple and kind of see where they fit naturally, and then we'll evolve from there and be better probably in January and February. But it's not sharing the ball. These guys share the ball fine. I get that question a lot. You can only play with one basketball. These are natural basketball players, man. They make the right play. If the right play is beside them, they're going to make it every single time. They've done it every time in practice. It's going to be the coach's responsibility to make sure we put them in positions of strength. Because what we do have that's really good, everybody's a little bit different. Everybody's strength's a little bit different. So we have to make sure we use those chess pieces. And I'm thankful I don't have to go. I'll tell you, I'm thankful I don't have to match up against us.
I think there's too much of an emphasis on starting. I think we're moving away from that. I think it's an older mindset. But you have, I'd say like six kids that could genuinely start, and some of them are several returning starters on top of the
Yep.
two incomers. Do you have do you feel like you kind of set in like a starting five, or is this something that you really want to be fluid in? Because the girls, whenever they won the 2024 state championship, they had two separate sets of starting
Yep.
lineups. Like one game it would be these two are starting, and then one game would be these three. But there were only like two, chalked in starters, but it was matchup dependent. How do you kind of approach
You
that?
know, we set our practices up to make them as competitive as we can. Um, to we stat certain things in practice that we can rely on as coaches, but it hasn't been an issue. I mean, we went in this summer and we all met as a team, and we had a conversation that we feel like the only thing that can break this team is this team, and we had a conversation about starting again. We didn't shy away, and these guys didn't shy away from any of these conversations that we needed to have. We had them, and they all agreed this summer. They just rotated starters. I think if we went to a team camp and played 6 games, well, they just rotated, and it was the very first. I think it was summer league we had. We played Shady, and Keegan said, "I'll come off the bench. Let Brady start. That's the guys he went against." So they had that type of attitude. They didn't really care, and even in practice, when we pull them out, they don't really care. And I think the only way you can handle that is to handle it with truthfulness. And I don't care about starters. You look back, Rob Reed, who's probably the best player ever coached, brought him off the bench, and Rob had talked to these guys about it, and it doesn't matter to me. So far, it doesn't matter to them, and if we can just keep that internal feeling, it's going to be a whole lot to do with nothing. And you like you said it, you better ready to play. You don't need 6, you need 8, 9. So we'll be fine.
I'm glad you brought him in. That Rob Reed, and did you show him Rob Reed highlights?
Yeah. No, I think I did show him the Mountain East buzzer beater highlight, because Rob came down here at some point last year. He was down hanging out with Taylor Smith and came to a game, and he got to meet the guys and kind of share a little bit of his story. So I don't think Keegan and them I don't think the new guys have met him, but he was down here, so he was able, talk to them about his path. And even, you go back to, I wanted Aaron Miller to talk to him. Aaron Miller went to the Hall of Fame at Concord this year, and like his story, he came in as a freshman. Heck, he didn't play the first 10 games. I don't think he played the second, and the way he overcame that is a great lesson for these guys that knows, here's how you get through those, and here's how you work. So we're ready for it. If we ever have to have the we haven't even been close to that, and it's been no issue at practice, and we'll keep plugging forward.
You got to break out the two-handed poster that Rob had. that's the
Yeah,
next highlight. The three's
one
good, but the poster's
yeah,
good.
the one he did at West Liberty. I think they were I think they were number 1, number 2 in the country. So I'll have to show them that, and Rob will want me to, because when I got him, he was old, so now he's older. Every once in a while, I'll get a picture, I'll get a video of him dunking, but I haven't confirmed that it's a new video or old video, so I need to find that out.
Absolutely. Well, Kent, I want to say I appreciate you having me down here, and thank you for the opportunity. And obviously, looking forward to seeing you guys this year. Should be great. And I always say it's always great when your blue blood programs are super competitive again.
Yep.
And I consider Wyoming County, especially Wyoming East, Mullen, sitting back, a blue blood basketball program in West
Yep.
Virginia. So it's good to you know say that they're relevant truthfully, and that's what you want for a program when you take it over.
Yeah,
So
you do, and these kids put in the work to feel that. Rory and myself going through the program when we were when it was really successful, and you can even last year. I think the greatest thing that those guys got to experience, they got to feel the community. Like you could feel it when we were down in Charleston. It was an emotion that those guys got to experience. That, if I'm being quite truthful, if you would ask Keegan, that's probably one of the attractive parts. Him growing up here, and I remember I think he came to a couple games, and you could just feel it. So we're appreciative of that. We're appreciative of you coming down here and highlighting these young guys because they deserve it. When you get a high school kid, and I just talk to them about this, we get them travel gear, and we talk to them about, that travel gear and this stuff you get is for you because you're the one down here at 8:30 during Thanksgiving break in the morning practicing. Everybody else, the other kid, if they want that, if they want to be able to experience this, they can make the sacrifices that they make. These kids make great, and it's from the time we ended last year up until today, 3 days in the weight room, flex days, things that they give up that other people don't give up. So we appreciate you coming down here and highlighting them so they can experience what I was very fortunate to experience. So we thank you.
I appreciate it. I
Yeah.
was just happy to be along for the ride. It's a lot of fun on my end too. But again, thank you again, and looking forward to seeing you guys
Thanks.
this year.
Thank you, man.